Hollywood Ways.
What's happening? Hollywood Ways, I'm Doug Ellen.
Breezy.
And we are breaking in the brand new studio of super mogul Kevin Connolly's Action Park Media.
Super mogul. That's big.
Joint production with Podcast One, but congrats on the new studio,
Thank
Kevin.
you.
You're fucking nuts. It's like 33,000 square feet, and it basically looks like Universal.
We got to get some other podcasts going in.
It's nice in here, though. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys are, what's the word? You're christening the new podcast, the new studio. So there's two studios in the new space, and we're referring to this one as Robertson, which is a throwback to the old studio.
Nice.
And then the new one, which you guys may end up in, the Beverly one. It's called the Beverly Studio. I feel like that might be more.
I want us to have our own room because I want to
I
decorate
think that's
it.
going to be more your style.
Yeah, did you hear that? Breezy wants to decorate her own room. I think you got to give
By the
her
way,
that.
we could talk about that.
I want our room to look like Hollywood. So do we need to build on something? Or
Wait, you know what? That's a great idea.
And
It
by the
is.
way, Breezy is a talented graphic artist. She could probably do it if you can pay her a little bit.
Well, no joke though. If you want to make a real Hollywood Ways backdrop that we could pop in there, that's what we're doing. But if you design it, I think that's a great idea.
All right, great. All right, well, let's listen. We're going to get into Shawshank Redemption, which, and I'm excited because this is like a movie that is just universally loved. I think the three of us love it, so that'll be, we won't be fighting and criticizing, like The Bodyguard. But I want to talk about
Who
some.
knew? Everybody hated The Bodyguard.
Oh, my gosh. I still love it, by the way.
And there's a slight
My
chance.
brother called me and said, how did you not know that The Bodyguard sucked? You don't remember that? My brother's a cop. He don't know shit.
And little information that's come to pass since that episode aired. I saw the Clive Davis documentary, and he told them, you better get some more music in this movie when he saw it without music because it's not good. And there's a chance that we're going to get David Foster, who produced the soundtrack, which is one of the biggest soundtracks of all time, if not the biggest.
I was about to say, I think it's the biggest.
Yeah, so he may come on this show, possibly, if Ted Foxman can deliver. So we'll see what happens. So anyway, I want to talk about a couple of things before we get into Shawshank Redemption. Today, I got a lot of messages from people. First of all, Hollywood Ways is growing. We had a
Booming.
good week. Thanks for sharing, and please keep doing the same thing. And again, I say this on Victory the Podcast, but if you have a problem, DM us, okay? Don't put it on Apple Podcasts. And Breezy, I don't know if you saw this, and I know you're not sensitive, but whoever called Breezy a thug, I'd like to I mean, are you out of your fucking mind, you racist scumbag? What are we talking about here? I mean, this is one of the nicest people I've ever met, a thug. So anyway.
It's kind of a compliment.
Is
right?
it my tattoo?
I mean, I wish I want to be a thug. I wish someone called me a thug.
You're not a thug.
I'm
Have
not.
you guys
That's the
seen that movie, The Hate You Give?
No.
The acronym is THUG.
Oh.
The Hate You Give.
So you got to just give love? Is that what you're saying?
You just got to watch the movie. Maybe we'll talk about it.
All right, maybe we'll talk about
Didn't
that. But
Tupac say that that's what Thug Life stood for?
Yes.
Is that true, do you think?
I believe it.
Right.
I believe it. I don't,
So anyway, though, people DM me. They like some inside stories and stuff. And I just want to talk about, for writers out there, there's a good program, and I just want to give a shout out. My boy Cassius Corrigan, I did this thing called Impact, which everyone can look online. You can find out about it. It's writers from all over the world who don't need agents, don't need anything, can get discovered by some of the people. Ron Howard's involved with it, and Brian Grazer. And my friend...
love Brian.
I was a mentor to this kid, Cassius Corrigan, who's awesome, and he just sold his first show to Netflix. He left me a message last night saying, I want to thank you for all the advice, and it made me feel good, but more importantly, it's a great outlet for people to get into. And then I want to get into something else, because you have to protect yourself in this business. So a lot of you are sending me messages. You want to talk to me about your scripts. You want to talk to me about this. I've said it a bunch of times. Unfortunately, number one, I don't have the time, but number two, I can't look at your stuff because there is no protection, and you could one day say that I stole it from you or whatever, and I'm going to get into a story that happened to me. But you guys have any stuff that happened to you that I know, Breezy, when you signed your Empire deal, you didn't even have a lawyer, right? I mean,
Right.
So that's dangerous stuff, and now
Yeah.
you are making sure that you're on.
Oh,
lockdown.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's that easy. I mean, when you're so excited, adrenaline's running, you're like, shh, signed it.
Right. So I'm gonna tell a little story.
Those
'cause
things matter.
people want inside stories. I'm gonna give a little one. So when Entourage is wrapping up, it's time for me to come up with what's my new show. I had already realized I hate writing and I didn't want to do it. And I wanted to produce. Not that producing is easy. It's easier than writing, though. So I came up with this idea. I wanted to do this show about hedge funds, okay? And what do you do when you're a producer? You find writers that can execute your idea, similar to how Mark Wahlberg and Steve Levinson found me for Entourage. So what I did was I found a movie that I liked, Rounders. And I got the guys who wrote Rounders to write this hedge fund show. We sold it to HBO. Now, when you're producing, I don't get paid. We sold it. These writers got paid. It was going to be a show because my life, I have a lot of friends in Wall Street. And growing up, I have friends who make $100 million, and I have friends who clean pools. And we all hang out, and it's not really a separation. And I thought there could be a good show about that, loosely inspired by some stuff from Stevie Cohen, who now owns the Mets, who's one of the biggest hedge fund guys in the world. Anyway, we do this show. These writers write it. HBO ultimately passes on it. Cut to 2 years later, I'm in a friend's office. He brings in this guy, Andrew Ross Sorkin, who is a New York Times writer and a CNBC contributor. And Andrew says, I want to do a TV show that's set in the hedge fund world. And I said, wow, you know what? I had these guys who wrote me a good script a couple of years ago. And maybe I put you with them. And we turned that half-hour show that I had into an hour. Okay? So I called those guys up, who I thought were my friends, by the way, aside from the fact that I brought them into HBO to sell a show. And I said, hey, guys, I want to put you together. And let's talk about this. And they said, wow, that's an interesting idea. Let us think about it. 4 weeks later, I checked in again on them. I said, hey, guys, have you thought about that? Like, we're still thinking about it. Never heard about it again until a year and a half later when one of them asked me to do their podcast, which was 7 years ago. So the one good thing I can say about this guy is he was early on in the podcast game. But while I'm doing his podcast, he asked me what I'm working on. And at the time, I was working on The Brick with Mike Tyson and Spike Lee. I was working on my own show called 40. And I said, what are you working on? And he told me he's doing this show set in the hedge fund world called Billions. And you can probably hear my voice on the phone going, on the podcast going, huh? And it didn't even register to me for a couple of hours that, okay, what a producer does, I did more than most do. I've given away credits for far less than this. Now, I want everyone to be clear on this. I want nothing about this. I haven't seen the show. Maybe it's great. I thought those guys were talented, so it wouldn't surprise me. But this was like kind of as low rent, low life shit as can possibly be done. So what I want to talk to you guys about is protecting yourself and everybody out there. When you have your ideas, and again, I'm not talking about plagiarism. I didn't write a single word of either of the scripts, not the one for HBO and not for Billions. But it was my idea that got them paid to write a show set in hedge funds, and it was my idea to connect them with the other guy who had a book and a story. So I want to make sure. Have you ever had anything, Kevin Connolly, that kind of...
Have you spoken to anybody about that? I mean, did you call them? Did you write an email? It's not like you're one to bite your tongue. What?
You know what? It was
wild. I heard of that show too.
Yeah,
I haven't watched it, but I heard of it.
The show does well, to be totally honest with you. I was so busy at the time and things were going well. I didn't want to end up... I don't even know what I would have ever wanted of it. It was more of... And I still don't want anything of it. It was more of a like, what kind of fucking human beings wouldn't call me and say, listen, we don't need you on this show, but obviously you're a producer of some kind, whatever it is. But no, I didn't. I just never spoke to them again. And I'm really talking about this more for the audience to know that it's important. It's
important, yeah.
To make sure you cross your lines, dot your I's, and take care of everything. For me,
cross your T's,
well,
dot your I's.
Yeah, okay. Even better. That's a smarter move, and Breezy's got the answers. But Connolly, have you ever had anybody that you thought, A, you were in business with, B, that you thought was kind of a friend that kind of did something that we can debate how shady that was, and everybody can debate it. But just so you people out there know, I have given people producer credits on stuff for doing far less than what I just described. And I guess the way I can compare it, imagine if Mark Wahlberg and Steve Levinson came to me and said, we want to do a show called Entourage about a movie star and his friends. I wrote a script and HBO passed. A year later, they called me up. They're like, you know what? We want to set you up with Leo to do a slightly different version of that show. And then a year later, Leo and I went and made the show without Mark and Levinson. That's how insane to me it is. So
that's how it feels to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's a debatable feel. I mean, I one day I'll maybe hear some other side, but I don't think there is any other side. But is anything
Well,
ever
if
happened?
if that's true, that's a bummer.
Well, Kevin,
Yeah.
you know me 20 years. I mean, there's nothing that's not true. I mean, it's
No, not true. I'm saying I'm just wondering what the other side to that is, if there is one.
There probably isn't. But anyway, like I said, I want nothing out of this. I want the universe to take care of itself and burn them in fucking hell. But anyway, so that's what I'll say about that. And you guys, nothing, huh, Colin?
Yeah,
You just
no,
had smooth sailing for 20 years?
No, it is true though. I mean, the thing about the script. So if somebody, emailed you a script about, I don't know, Billy the Kid, and you never even looked at it, and you kind of opened the file, or and then out of the blue, 10 years later, without even thinking about it, you were making a Billy the Kid story, that guy could have that case.
Yeah, they could
right?
totally come at you. And I have, like I said, I have these DMs where people are like, come on, man, give me a half hour of your time. First of all, I don't have a half hour of your time. You don't ask a dentist to give you a half hour of free time. You don't go, hey,
Right.
why don't you come clean my teeth for nothing because you're a dentist. So anyway, I don't have time to read your scripts. I don't want to read your scripts, but I do like to help as much as I can. And that's why I say I did that mentorship program with Impact, which everybody who wants to write at their get involved with it. And we'll talk more about that. But we're going to come back and talk about just a great classic movie, Shawshank Redemption, right after this. All right, welcome back. And, we had to go to a break because Connolly's got to pay for these new offices. But Breezy wanted to add to the
Paying
conversation.
for our new room. No, I was gonna say actually, I had an idea for something. I don't know if it would have been film or series, but I wanted to show the script to one of the writers that I knew and I liked him, and he actually told me no. He said I want you to copyright it,
Right.
first and do what you have to do before I look at it.
Yeah,
and
and
I thought that was a very respectful way
Yeah.
to put it, early on, because I wouldn't have known. And he was just like, people steal shit all the time. Not saying I would,
Yeah.
but I just want you to get in the habit of making sure your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed.
And even
before
more
you start.
so, you want it to come from a third party. You want an agent to send it
Yeah.
to you because, I mean, even me, my father kept harassing me about like his friend's son who had an idea for a thing, and then we did something on Entourage, which is, it's a pretty cliched storyline. We had like a guy from the old neighborhood come out, and the guy thought I stole it. I'm like, listen, bro, it's been on every show since like 1975. The
Yeah.
cousin shows up, the bad, boy
Yeah.
or whatever. So everybody be careful out there, protect your ideas, but don't be precious. That doesn't mean you can't share things with people, but be smart, right? Register with the Writers Guild and whatever. So anyway, I want to get into Shawshank Redemption.
The Shawshank.
73rd on AFI, which I went to the American Film Institute, so I like to talk about their list. 73rd on the all-time list, on their list. And Breezy had never seen it till last night. So what'd you think?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I was a little nervous. I thought I was going to fall asleep. I thought Chris was going to fall asleep, but it turned out to be a great story. Like, I was into it. I mean, 10 minutes in, I was in.
Yeah.
When that bus pulled up and the inmates started getting off, I was in. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this about to be?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, that movie comes out in 93, I think, correct,
Yeah.
Connolly? And it's a bomb. I mean, a huge bomb. I think it made less than $1 million at the box office. And it's one of those movies.
But it was automatically critical acclaim.
It was critically acclaimed, but no one saw it. And then people started catching it on.
But why was it a bomb? Like,
No
why
one went.
do you think? Why? Was there no star power there?
Well, I'm trying to think where Morgan Freeman is at that point, and Tim Robbins was somewhat of a star, but it had a strange title. Maybe it's based on a Stephen King novella.
Right.
But
That was also a big year for movies. There was a lot going on.
Pulp Fiction.
I was about
It
to say,
is-
what else was lingering around that time?
Pulp Fiction, Forrest Gump.
wow.
Those were the Oscar nominees.
Those were huge.
Yeah, do we know that for sure? Or is that the year? Was it? Oh, so it was 94. I guess it was 94. Yeah, there was some big ones. I don't know. I didn't know that the movie was not successful. I know it was critically acclaimed.
Oh, the movie was beyond not successful, and they thought it would. No, it was. And then they re-released it, and then it became a success. But now, like on IMDb, it's the second highest rated movie in the history of movies behind The Godfather from the audience's perspective. So
Wow.
people really loved it. And there's a lot of interesting behind the scenes on people who might have played in this movie. Tom Cruise was involved at one point. Harrison Ford was going to play Morgan Freeman's part. Tom Hanks was offered it, Tim Robbins' part, which, what do you think if Tom Hanks was a Tim Robbins? I mean,
Yeah, that I knew. I knew that. I think actually Tom Hanks might have even gone down the road a little bit and then decided not to do it.
But what do you think, Breezy? If it was Tom Hanks, do you know Tim Robbins? Like, have you seen him a bunch or not?
I've seen him. I don't know if I could say a bunch, but he was definitely a familiar face.
Right.
But I don't know. Now that you mentioned Tom Hanks, I kind of feel like same demeanor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, based off of Forrest Gump and like, what else have I seen Tom Hanks in? Philadelphia? Was he in
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
The other thing, is that Tom Hanks starred in his follow-up movie, The Green Mile, which is also about prison. So
Yeah.
Hanks was like, "Yikes, I missed the boat on that one, and I
I
better
felt
jump
like
on
one
the
of
Green
those
Mile."
guards was in the Green Mile.
I believe he was.
By the way, Frank Darabont uses a lot of the same
Okay.
guys. So there was
Yeah.
a bunch of people in the Green Mile as well.
I will say though, from the beginning, I thought that was it Adam? Was his name Adam or Andy?
Andy.
Andy. I thought he was innocent from the very beginning.
Well,
when I was watching him in the court.
I think what's interesting about the movie, the year before, a movie called The Fugitive comes out, which was an incredible movie starring Harrison Ford. And it opens, it's almost identical. It opens in a courtroom. Harrison Ford gets convicted of murder and he goes to jail. The difference is the bus overturns and then he's running for his life and trying to prove his innocence. So what's interesting about this movie is like always the star is going to probably be innocent. So you think that this movie is going to be about this guy proving his innocence, but it's not. And I don't know. I just love the fact that you've never seen it, so I can see a fresh eye because I remember the first time I saw it, and it's such an uplifting movie, which. Is amazing. Frank Darabont, who, by the way, was on Entourage, as an actor, he did a movie for us. But as a writer, what I think is fascinating about it, at the end of the day, a writer is manipulating.
You're not a writer.
No, I'm not really, but a writer is manipulating the audience. That's what they're doing. And he writes a movie about rapists, murderers, criminals, and you love them. And you're like, I want to hang out with these guys and I want to go. Yeah. So what were you thinking when you were watching that? Like, what was,
I just thought it was interesting. These guys, and I think that, from outsider, we look at people in prison and think that they're just these angry, mad people all the time. And like, I think most people who have committed crimes outside of the habitual offenders, just had a bad freaking day. You know what I mean? Right. And there's crimes of passion and things like that. But I think these guys had so much personality outside of the sweet crew, whatever, what were they calling them?
The sisters.
The sisters, yeah. Like outside of them, but there was still so much to know about these people. Like you said, everybody's innocent in here. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I thought it was funny, but it was nice to see, the adjustment in just life and, how I love that Andy always found a way to smile. I don't know if you paid attention to that.
Yeah.
But, like when they were having beers on the rooftop and he was just like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he always found a way to smile. And that was so interesting to me. Like that stood out the most. Like how? You have just been convicted. You just reached your 10-year mark. You didn't do this. More years are going by. He's getting older. The gray showing. He's finding ways to cope and deal and, just develop some sense of normalcy in this place.
Right. Well, I think that's what the movie's purpose. I mean, if it was like a public service announcement for criminals and rehabilitation, and that there are humans there, which I have mixed feelings about it, and I hear what you're saying. People make mistakes, they go to jail. We want them to come back in society, but
they really kind of, for the most part, stayed away from what these people had done. You didn't really learn much. I mean, you knew
because every time somebody asked, they're like, I'm innocent.
Yeah, yep. You knew what you had to know. To me,
he said, "Who said what'd you do?" And he said, "Oh,
same thing as everyone
judge.
else." Right?
He said, "God fucked me."
Yeah,
like something like that.
Lawyer fucked me.
Lawyer fucked me. Yeah, like So you're right. No one ever.
Yeah, well, you want to like these guys. So if you start getting into these heinous crimes that got them all life in prison, it
you'll look at it
wouldn't
differently.
Have been a good look. To me, I love Tom Hanks, but the chemistry between Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins, and let's face it, man, Morgan Freeman, the ultimate narrator, pretty much the voice of God, right?
Yeah.
He made it poetic.
He did.
I mean, it's just like hard to imagine. Can you imagine if that movie wasn't narrated by Morgan Freeman? It'd be
I couldn't
honestly, I
imagine.
don't think it's as good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's interesting because you always, when a movie's great, you always go, how can you imagine anything else? So it's impossible. But Morgan Freeman, and I've seen this movie, which is ridiculous. I've seen this movie 30 plus times.
I
you
want to
know?
watch it again.
I know every single moment of it before it's going to happen. And it's this weird movie because also, and there's no criticism. I love it. I think it's kind of a masterpiece. Roger Deakins cinematography. It's like beautiful, and you're
It
in
is
this
beautiful.
dark, freaking disturbing story, but it's a fairy tale because it's not really real, but with all that's going on in the world right now, it also does have this message about the power are as bad as the criminals, you know? And are there any better villains than these two guys? I mean, this warden is the worst
Oh my
thing
gosh.
I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're scary when they hide under the guise of the Lord, which is even darker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bible
That
passages.
and I was like, at first when he was giving his little spiel to the new prisoners, I was like, oh, okay, this is different, because he came from such a spiritual place. But immediately, I was like, oh, that's a cover up, like for something, you know what I mean? But I wasn't expecting it. I feel like I didn't really. When he walked in the office and he threw him in the hole for a month, and I was like, oh my God, this is bad.
Yeah.
This is bad. Like, what kind of freaking person is this?
But it's funny. He was working on that tunnel the whole time.
I know. I
He
know.
was always getting out of there. How many times did he come close to getting caught? It's crazy.
Well, hopefully everybody.
Wait.
Yeah.
He came close to getting caught?
Well, I mean, they were in his cell looking around, and he had already started digging.
The rock hammer was in the Bible.
Rock hammer in the Bible.
He gave him a pass on that huge poster.
Yeah. Well, if he would have
So you're
yanked
right.
down
Okay.
that poster, there
I
would
wasn't
have been a
looking at
giant
that.
hole.
Yeah, I wasn't looking.
I mean, giant holes. And there's nothing to criticize about this movie because it's like a fairy tale to me. It's like
But what's his name? Did the same thing in
Return to Alcatraz?
no. More recent than that.
Escape from Dannemora, right?
No. Damn.
I don't know.
Liam
what-
Neeson. What?
Liam Neeson?
Liam Neeson. What's that? What's
Was
that?
he in jail or is it I don't know.
He's
Where-
always running away from somebody.
like where he gets revenge for his daughter, whatever that movie is. I don't know.
Taken? I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe
But
I'm thinking of the wrong guy. Dang.
Do you know that?
With Jamie Foxx. Remember, he was in his prison cell, but he kept leaving jail every day.
no. I don't know what this is.
He blew up Jamie Foxx's assistant.
No idea.
Damn.
No. Oh wait, I know. There's like a
Law-abiding
car thing.
citizen.
It's like Tom Cruise. or something,
Law-abiding
isn't it?
citizen.
Law-abiding citizen.
Law-abiding
I
citizen.
never saw it.
Oh my God.
I never saw it.
I mean, it's in new time, but that this guy was doing. I mean, Adam was a good guy.
Yeah.
Underneath it all, but this guy who was in jail was he was pissed. He was leaving jail every day in all kind of uniforms. He was a janitor. He was like a
Was it
lawyer.
like realistically done, or I mean?
Yeah, it was like I would say so.
Yeah, because I mean, if you really wanted to break down Shawshank of realism, I mean, the odds of digging that hole without anybody finding it, the odds of the warden.
Well, I think that even though the warden was such a crappy person, I think that with all Adam was doing with their taxes and he was doing so much, I'm like, I could see something like that being realistic.
Yeah.
Because you gotta understand, he was making a way for that prison to still remain what it was.
Oh yeah,
He
no,
was getting
for sure.
special privileges.
He was
and
getting
so
special
they let
privileges,
him-
yeah.
They let him alone. They let him build a library. They let him do a bunch of stuff. But
And I
here's
think
an
the one
interesting-
thing they didn't aggravate is his cell. They let him carve his little rocks. And
Well, they let him put a very sexual poster up at
hardly
a time.
sexual. I mean, it's Raquel Welch.
In
It's not.
1965, that was a very sexual poster for an ultra religious warden. That was an extremely sexualized
there was
picture.
nothing religious about that prison.
Of
That
course
was
not,
hell.
but yeah.
You know, one of the things that I learned about the movie that's interesting is, in the book, Morgan Freeman's character was Irish,
Mm-hmm.
so his name was Red.
That's why they had that line
So
where he
that's
said,
why
"Why
they
they
had
call
the
you?"
line. It said, "Why do they call you Red?" He said, "Maybe it's because I'm Irish."
Yeah.
So that's what they did. They just kept the name. But yeah, to me, without Morgan Freeman, you got a real problem in that.
I loved it. I loved his character, and I definitely loved the chemistry between them two. I loved it. I was like, by the end, it felt like a love story to me. By the end of it, I was like, oh my God, I hope
It
they
did.
see each other again.
It was.
Yeah, and it's so weird. I mean, like
Just like real friendship.
I can say, as someone, I've seen it 50 times, it gets me emotional. I'm watching these scenes that I know what's going to happen, and it still gets me emotional. And more interesting facts, Connolly,
That's how I feel about The Bodyguard. That's
well, that's when Whitney sings. Imagine instead of the opera, they played "I Will Always Love You" over those loudspeakers.
that scene, though, for me was amazing.
Yeah.
When he just kicked back and put his hands behind his head and he just, he actually turned the music up and just how attentive and militant that whole yard was. Everybody in the prison. I was just like, wow.
Yeah, I wonder if that sound system would have really taken over the the crowd at that point. But
The whole movie's like a Norman Rockwell painting.
yeah, it is. It's poetry, and so I was going to say though, little unknown fact: James Gandolfini was offered the role of the lead sister guy that rapes
Boggs?
Yeah, Boggs, who rapes Tim Robbins for a couple of years in that movie.
Boggs wasn't the rapist, was it?
Yeah. Boggs was that strange looking.
Okay, so what was the guy's name that killed himself?
That was Brooks.
That's
Brooks. Okay, that's what
Now
Boggs and
Brooks
Brooks.
is played by a actor named James Whitmore, who goes way back to like the film noir. He was in one of my favorite movies called Asphalt Jungle, a John Huston movie. And it's funny because he plays this decrepit old man, but you should see him when he's in his 30s.
In his prime, yeah.
He would have knocked you right, Alan. He would have. Your jujitsu.
He was
not
so
gonna work
small.
with him.
He was so tiny.
But he got that way when he was in his prime, man. He had like the forearms. He was jacked.
But that's also, you get a little touch of what I'm talking about with this movie. He gets out on parole finally after 50 years, and he throws it away like almost a comedy. He's working at the grocery store where the manager's an asshole, and he's like, I thought I could go back to jail, just kill this manager, but I'm too old for that now. So again, I don't want to get too deep into that thing but are these guys rehabilitated at all or not? And, what would they be? But
One thing about Shawshank, it felt like it had a few endings, and I don't mean that as a criticism, right? But it's like, that was like almost the middle of the movie when that happened. That felt like the end. And then Tim Robbins gets out, Andy Dufresne escapes, and that's the end of the movie. But then it's back to Morgan Freeman, and then Morgan Freeman gets out.
Yeah, I
There's a few
definitely
different endings.
thought that the bus was the ending.
Well, the bus was the original ending, and then the studio wanted Darabont to add on where they get to the beach, which, as I read, he didn't even want to do. He thought it was over on the bus, which I'm kind of with him actually. I mean, I didn't need to see them on the beach, and but it's.
I did. I needed to see that.
You did.
I
Yeah.
needed to see that.
Do you want to know what else? There was some dialogue in there that they ended up cutting.
What was it? Play it. Do you have it?
So they're walking up on the beach and they see each other. Tim Robbins is on the boat, sanding down the boat, and Morgan Freeman walks up and says, "I heard you're looking for a guy that can get things."
Oh,
Right, and
that would have made me cry.
Well, they did. They shot
That
it.
probably
and
would've
then
made me cry.
And then that was probably the kind of the thing with Darabont. He said,
Is
"All
there
right,
an ex-
that's it. That's where I draw the line." So they shot that, and then they cut it, where they just cut to the wide shot of them seeing each other.
So I want to talk, Breezy. You watched this with your fiance last night. She's never seen it. Also, did you guys cry during this movie at all?
We didn't. Oh. By the end, though, she was like cuddled up, like on
Yeah,
my
I mean,
neck.
cry.
Like,
when you say cry, like yeah,
She
touch,
didn't
that's what
cry,
actual
but
tears
we-
streaming down her face. No,
yeah,
but-
there wasn't
How the
tears.
fuck do you know whether she had tears down her
And
face?
I
I'm
felt
asking her. I'm not
Breezy
asking
and I
you.
have the same.
Oh yeah, you're real similar.
But,
Real similar. You're a thug, Connolly.
But we definitely felt it. There was so much love in that film. Like,
So you're saying I'm soft because I've seen it 100 times. I had tears on my face. I'm not embarrassed to say it. I had tears. Because what, Connolly? What do you got to say?
You're high on edibles.
I mean, it really is such it. Why I say what makes this movie so great for me, and one of my disturbing arguments with Connolly is, and again, Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins. I don't know why Tim Robbins gets no credit because everybody talks about Morgan Freeman, who was nominated. The movie is nominated for Best Picture.
It is nominated for
but
Best
not for writer or director, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life because this movie is brilliantly written and
I
directed.
think for that day and time, that's a great film.
Oh, it's great, but it plays today. You know, one of the great
It
things
does.
about it doesn't feel dated at all. I guess, there's no real
Yeah.
technology in it because they're locked up in a prison, but it feels completely relevant right now and no different than I think that
But
it felt
prison
then.
system has changed, right? I mean, I think that's.
They said
You
that
see what's
before
going on
they-
at Rikers right now?
Well,
I
they
don't
said
know.
before they shot that film that that prison shut down in 1990, but it was open for like 100 years.
Wow. I just don't know how
So it
anyone
was actually
could,
a real thing in Mansfield, Ohio.
I don't know anyone could see that movie though and want to go to prison, and that still was probably one of the better prisons you'd be in. Like if you could go in and have like your boys in there and you play chess and
Can
checkers.
you really get whiskey?
I mean,
I mean,
think you
you
can
know
get
what
Listen.
though? Times have changed. Back then, you were able to smoke in prisons. You were able to do a lot of shit. Now, no, because I mean, they want to essentially control everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to pay for this stuff. I remember my brother was in prison and he wanted a regular like pair of sneakers, and I mean, in the store now they would have been like $90. For prison price, it was like $300, and that's from the prison commissary store.
Did you say your brother?
My brother, my older brother.
What was he in prison for?
He's been a lot. That time was it's always been like drugs,
Yeah.
drug
And maximum or no?
maximum what
Security? I mean-
well, it was this particular case was federal, so I don't know if there's like a maximum, but I don't think so.
Right.
My brother's not. He's never had like a violent crime. You know
Right.
what I mean? So
Yeah.
no, it's just stupid.
Yeah. I mean, it's
He's
just
just a bad drug dealer.
It's just like in such a beautiful movie about prison life where besides, which I don't mean to dismiss this, besides the 2 years where he's getting raped, because that's what Morgan Freeman says in the voiceover. He's
That's what I was concerned. I didn't know if that was what was happening because I didn't see that they ever got to that point. And I read
they
in the
never
beginning
they
that
never
it said
showed his,
sexual
like, draws
content
around his ankles or anything there, Breezy. No, of course,
Yeah.
but he definitely
Well, I was expecting it.
right.
There was a movie that I've seen before, and it was two black guys in prison, and they definitely showed this guy getting raped.
I mean, have you seen Oz? I mean, Oz.
Yeah. Oh,
was-
I love that show.
Yeah,
Yeah, I loved Oz.
Ernie Hudson, who is one of my favorites. He was in my
did
first
that go
short film.
off?
What?
Why did that go off?
I you know what? I don't know. It
Just disappeared.
Yeah, it ran its course, but it was a great show. With again,
Yeah.
I don't think Shawshank is a highly realistic movie. I mean, I don't think anyone should watch that movie and think, go to prison, you're going to meet your best friend for life, and as soon as you're going to get out, you're going to travel to Mexico to find him, and he's going to actually leave a suitcase of money or a tin thing of money for you to go meet him at a boat in Mexico. Did anyone think like, how in the hell did he find this little thing under this rock in the middle of Texas
Well,
somewhere?
I think what he described was very specific as far as that rock wall.
I couldn't even find Connolly's office today, and I had the address. But I mean, it's possible.
I mean, especially when you're in a area like that, where there's not a lot. I mean, Connolly's in the middle of freaking Hollywood, Beverly Hills.
There's a lot of great character actors in this. There are some really, really, really great roles.
Yeah.
I mean, all of them. I mean, these guys, his crew, all those guys are very successful actors. They've all done really well.
Yeah.
And I love it. I know what you're saying. There's a couple of things, but I don't think they're going for the realism there, right?
No, it's poetry and it's beautiful. But I'm saying again, if we were going into the like, how would you make this realistic? I mean, that poster's not staying up. I've hung 1,000 posters on my wall. They do not stay up. And then
In jail?
no, but that would be even harder.
Well, he got a
I
new
had that to
poster.
stick in
He gets a new
1960.
poster every season.
Every season,
Every
he
time.
had 3 posters in 20 years.
Now,
okay?
Where was Morgan Freeman at in his career when he did this film? Like, what was prior to this?
I
for
believe
him?
he already won an Oscar for Driving Miss Daisy, right? That's before, I believe.
Yeah, Driving Miss Daisy was before, but I think that was right. That was him at the top of his game for sure.
But well, I mean, he's
That's one thing me and Chris said throughout the movie. We're like, Morgan Freeman just has looked the same since we can
He
remember.
has not aged.
yeah.
Since we can remember, he like got to a certain point and he stayed there.
Yeah. What a voice, though. I mean, it just, and I know what
His
you're
voice
saying,
is
Kevin,
amazing.
but I do believe if somehow Morgan couldn't do it, it's just a great film, and there's
he
different
couldn't do
Would
it,
have
what?
been a
If he
major
could- if he-
blow to the film to not have Morgan Freeman narrating.
I mean,
that.
any movie that you love, it would always seem like it's going to be a major blow. Honestly, I can't imagine any other person playing the warden. He was that good. And it's kind of a one-note character. He's just an asshole. He never gives any humanity at all in that movie. He is just absolutely an asshole.
If
But he's
you were
great.
nitpicking, right? I mean, Tim Robbins is like 6'5".
Yeah.
How he walked out of there in the warden's suit. and shoes, he probably wouldn't
Perfect
have fit into
fit.
that. You had to suspend belief there a little bit on that one, but that was really
You're not with me on this poster thing, though, huh? You
I'm
think?
not with you.
And by the way, you get in the hole and then you put the poster back and you stick it with.
I
don't
thought
know.
about that.
You stick
I
it with
did.
gum. Like, what does he have that's sticking it on the wall? And it's not even bent at all. They spend 10 minutes in that cell before anyone even thinks to look at Raquel Welch. By the way, which I had that poster. Raquel Welch is probably my all-time favorite, by the way. So, but Connolly's not bothered by that.
Well, no, the poster didn't bother me. Poster didn't bother me. He dug a tunnel, and Andy Dufresne was a smart
What
guy.
was
He figured
the
it out.
purpose of when he got through the tunnel, when he got down to where the pipes were, and every time lightning hit, he was banging?
So they
it to
wouldn't
break
hear it. Which
I know that, but what was the point of him letting all that water and shit out?
Because he
So
needed
he
to
could-
get through that
he
pipe.
could get through that pipe.
Oh God!
I just don't know how he knew a lightning storm was going to come because he had to do it that night. He had to close. The thing was in motion, and if there was no lightning, if the weather report, which I don't know how he got that, if the weather report
A
was
lot
wrong,
of lightning. A lot of lightning.
See,
And
that's when you get into the details.
yeah.
And how about, when you think about it, it really is like this Norman Rockwell thing, like I said, but that was a Stephen King, like that's a horror movie or a horror book.
Yeah, well, I never read it, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but just the idea of taking a short story, which
By Stephen King.
Stephen King also is famous for not liking the movies that are made out of his stuff. He hates The Shining. I'm not sure, I think he hates Carrie too, but he loved this movie. And, Frank Darabont, you know what he paid to get the rights to that short story from Stephen King?
How much?
$1. And he,
What?
Yeah, he had made another.
Stephen King's like that. Like if he likes you, he'll give you stuff for free.
And, Kevin and I got to work with Frank Darabont, who was awesome on Entourage.
Doug gave away a whole show for free.
Yeah, I did give away a whole show. I gave away billions for free.
Yeah, exactly. You're giving shows away.
What a dummy I am.
No, listen. I think the movie will. For me, honestly, I would have to put it in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah, see,
You don't agree with me on that.
It's a top one for me. I really enjoyed that. I mean, you guys have great taste in films.
well, Breezy's seen it once. I think it is one of those movies, which I guess is kind of how I judge my favorite movies. Can you watch it over and over and over?
Or
Which-
can you pick up, if you're flipping through the channels and it's on, can you watch it from any point? And never is there a better case for that than Shawshank.
Yeah,
Doesn't
so
matter
I
where
could.
it is in the movie,
I
you
could
can just watch it.
I want to watch it again.
I love it. So I don't want people because, I said I didn't like The Bodyguard and The Outsiders. I didn't like as much as the book. I love Shawshank, but no shot in hell is it anywhere near my top 5 movies of all time.
Does Kevin know Outsiders is in theaters right
yeah,
now?
The Outsiders is playing in theaters, re-released
4K.
in 4K.
After that podcast,
I think we did it.
Go Doug.
We're making
congratulations.
shit happen. But, we'll talk about another. I love this idea, though, and I do want Breezy to bring us films, too, so we can talk about them. But I do like looking at this AFI top list.
Can we watch another Whitney Houston film and see how you feel?
Is there another one?
Waiting
Waiting to Exhale.
Oh, we can watch Waiting to Exhale. I
Now
haven't seen it in
that's a
long
movie
time.
I can watch over and over from any point at any time.
Well,
And I cry.
And Waiting to Exhale, I believe that was critically acclaimed, right? I believe
I
people
have
responded.
absolutely
And that's
no idea.
another film
Is that-
with
I
the
mean,
greatest soundtrack.
Is Angela Bassett in that?
Yes,
Okay, 'cause
Angela Bassett.
I'm not even sure I've ever seen
Yeah,
it.
Babyface did the entire soundtrack for that.
Oh, you know who knows Babyface?
Ted Foxman.
Ted Foxman is very close to
Ted's
Babyface.
so
So
famous.
is that the next movie, by the way?
Can we? I know it.
I mean, I'm happy
do
to make
Waiting
it the
to
next
Exhale.
movie.
But wait, because does he know about the Paperboy?
He does not know about The Paperboy. So we need to talk about this. Breezy wanted me to watch The Paperboy, and this is so weird.
A film that I seen as a kid, and I just watched it again as an adult. But go ahead.
I'm going to let you're going to have to describe it. But what happens is The Paperboy,
But who's the star of the
hold on,
Paperboy?
let me just give you a
I
little.
don't know if anybody was ever a star.
Give me half a second. So Breezy tells me The Paperboy. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it. I turn on the TV, I search The Paperboy, and here comes a movie from Lee Daniels, Matthew McConaughey, Nicole Kidman. Lee Daniels created Empire that Breezy was on. So I'm like, obviously this is the movie. I watch it, and then I call her, and she's like, it's about the 12-year-old kid who murders people. I'm like, there's no 12-year-old kid in this movie. So I watched the wrong Paperboy.
He said he watched it halfway through, waiting for somebody to get killed, and it never happened.
So
You guys better get going on this killing thing. It's halfway through.
we can look at this Paperboy also,
up.
which is, I don't know if anyone's in it. We'll look it up.
It's a Canadian horror film. Came out in '94.
So this is going to be a
Starring
Connolly special.
Alexandra Paul, Mark
in.
Marut, and William Catt. I don't know
I have no
any
idea.
of these people.
You love
in
this
now.
movie, though. You want to watch this movie.
As a kid, and I talked to my mom about this, and I tried to figure out why did we have this movie? It's a bit disturbing for a child to watch this, and I was watching it with Chris, and she was like in bed at the headboard, like, oh, what? Why is he doing? You
So
know,
it
Love horror
scares
movies.
you.
Let's do it.
it's a what do you call it? Like a thriller?
Yeah, I mean, thrill. I don't know. Is it a slasher movie? Is there a lot of people getting hacked up in it, or no?
Yes.
This
There's
is a
a
Connolly
particular
special.
scene in the film where he takes a bag of meat, like raw meat, and he wants the lady to like die. So she already has a hard time breathing, and she's just old. She's probably like in her 80s, and she hates him, he hates her. But he's only 12. So he takes the bag of meat, puts it in front of her, and beats the shit out of meat with it's like got ketchup and shit. She thinks it's her dog. So she ends up dying of a heart attack because she's like, why would you do that?
You're spoiling this movie.
I'm down to watch it.
I'm
though.
sorry, but just watch it.
All right, I will watch it. We'll watch Waiting to Exhale.
We can honestly do both.
Yeah, we can definitely do both. And
I would like to ask one more thing of you guys.
Connolly's like Columbo, by the way.
In
If you ever,
closing on Shawshank Redemption.
everyone needs to watch Columbo to understand what I'm saying. But just one more question. That was
we all assumed, right, that like, and as we sit here, I'm sure that he was innocent. But is there a world or is there a theory out there that maybe he was guilty?
I think he was
Or does it not matter?
100% guilty.
Who?
Tim Robbins, 100%. I think he was guilty. I don't believe. First of all, this is just my opinion. That character, when they flash back to that guy, he's so over the top that to me it feels like it's either a made up story, but I believe you never heard Tim Robbins really complain until he had a moment. And I think one of the great things that I love, one of the best lines in that movie, and I don't want to say it wrong, but he basically said, I was never a crook on the outside.
It took me to come to prison to be a criminal.
Right, which is a great
Right,
line.
on the outside, I was straight as an arrow. I had to come to prison to be a crook.
Look
Yep.
at Connolly. Now you know why he's an actor. He delivered that pretty
Jesus,
well.
man.
You imagine
Did you-
Kevin Connolly
Did
instead
you-
of Tim Robbins?
Did you read the sides?
I would have fit into that suit better than him.
I think that warden's actually a big guy, actually. I looked that up. I think he's like 6'2 plus.
I
But
don't think he is, but whatever. It doesn't
no,
matter.
no, no. I'm telling you, he is. But I think it's an interesting thing that you're saying, and I believe that's why I said The Fugitive, which is an amazing movie, is about him proving his innocence. This movie is about that great line that Tim Robbins says, you can either...
Get busy living or get busy dying.
Yep. And I think this movie is about hope, and movie is about finding life in whatever your circumstances is. And I
yep.
think that's why it moved me
Is it
so much.
supposed to be ambiguous, or does it take a real cynic like yourself to believe that he's guilty?
I cannot answer that, but I believe he is 100% guilty.
Why?
He got out of the car with a loaded gun, drunk out of his mind. The odds that there happened to be somebody else in the area that shot with the same gun, and then he threw his fucking gun in the river. They cannot find it.
never
And he
found that
said,
So what was the purpose of this weirdo telling his story?
we don't even know if that happened. It happens all the time in prison. I mean, like I've never been there, but we know there's always someone who's got the confession that can release people. Connolly does a lot of podcasts about true crime, and Dateline we're both obsessed with. There's always they had a guy in prison who came forward with new evidence. But I think that's what's so great about the movie. Of course he's guilty, but does he deserve a
It's not
second chance?
Of course, you don't know that for sure. I mean, I
He
guess we
says
could
it
Google
like
it.
we've seen it. I don't.
I guess we could Google it.
I'm
I
Googling
never
now.
really thought. I never really even stopped. That's how good the movie was to me that I never even really stopped to think about the possibility. They don't really talk much about that.
What I can
Yeah.
promise you I'm going to do, because I did email Frank Darabont at a 10-year-old email address. Now, it's
Right, his
possible
AOL,
just
he probably got a new email.
No, but I'm saying it's possible, just like he's not guilty, it's possible Frank got it and just doesn't want to talk to me. But it's more likely he did not get it. So I'm going to call him and ask him. But I think the genius of that movie is, unlike The Fugitive, which is about proving someone's innocence, that has nothing to do with this movie is about. This movie is about people make mistakes, and should their lives be over because of it. Now,
People make mistakes and shoot their wife and,
I'm not-
and love her and
I'm not saying that I'm for that system in real life. Of
course not.
But in this movie, you clearly want, whether Tim Robbins is guilty or not, you want him to escape.
Right,
You
and,
do not want.
and Morgan Freeman, who admits to being guilty, you want him out.
Yep.
You know,
It says on Google that he was wrongfully charged for a double murder.
Yeah, fuck Google. What does Google know?
Right.
Everything.
What does Google do besides steal your data?
The guy in the jail's name was Elmo Blatch.
Elmo Blatch.
Elmo Blatch entered the house and killed them both. Andy was wrongfully charged with double murder.
Listen to
his
me.
wife and the man she was cheating with.
Just because Google says it, don't make it true. Okay, I believe my interpretation of that movie is he was guilty. I mean, look at him. He's sitting in that courtroom. First of all, I don't know who represented him. Why is he speaking on his behalf?
Shut up,
He
sir.
should have never testified.
And he's such a wise ass too. He's like, isn't it convenient that the gun's missing? He's like, it's decidedly inconvenient since I'm like being convicted. But so, all right, guys, listen.
Google says that Red was the only guilty man.
Listen, you
In
could.
Shawshank.
Well, that's a
well,
line.
that's definitely Boggs. Boggs is not innocent.
But I mean, what are the odds that he took that gun? Why would he throw it in the river that night? I mean, he was drunk. Why didn't he just walk away
He
and take
wanted
his
to
gun
make
home?
sure he couldn't get it back. He was like, I got to get rid of this gun. He had
You
him on.
guys have been taken in by some great writing, and I believe that Frank Darabont is going to confirm to me, and we should look at the short story too. We have no idea what that says, but I
They
believe
said he was
way-
autistic.
who was autistic.
Andy.
Oh, in the that's
book.
that's very interesting though, because Aspergery possibly for sure, because he's a brilliant guy and he does keep his emotions in check. So that's an interesting
Who
thing.
was Michael Corleone?
Michael Corleone is The Godfather, which is the #1 movie on IMDb ahead of Shawshank Redemption, which we are definitely going to do that movie
This is
too.
both of them were autistic.
They say Michael Corleone was autistic? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Interesting.
What does Google know? That's what they said.
I don't know what that says, but Google does not know anything. And the last thing I'm going to leave you guys on, because we're talking internet, and this is totally off the subject, but I want to talk about it because someone posted something to me yesterday. I posted like a pickleball video because I'm very
I
athletic,
did see
Breezy.
you. I seen you.
And somebody
That ball
said,
was chasing you.
yeah, but my friend who did our music for Entourage like wrote some nasty shit about my game, which is ridiculous because at 54,
joking with you, obviously.
yeah, but I just said I will beat you with my phone. I don't even need a paddle. And Instagram said I went against community guidelines, like I was.
Well, because that's a
threatening him.
threat.
Okay,
It's
do
a
know-
threat.
do you know how many
You said
people-
I will beat you with my phone.
Do you know how
it
many-
stops there?
Okay, so they should. You're telling me they should decide context of the things they would
Well, that's what
rewrite.
they
was
do.
saying- he
They
was-
really
He
monitor
was
based
saying
off of the
using, I'll
words.
beat you like with my phone as like using my
I
phone.
know
as a
what he
paddle.
was saying.
Do
I'm
you know how
telling
many
you-
threats I get a week on
But I'm
Instagram?
telling you what the
You're highly
it's
threatened.
gauged by words. If you realize, and I don't know, it only bothers some accounts. But if you try to type something that has a word that is flagged somewhere for that network,
Yeah.
your comment won't post.
So, but
you know how many times a week I get threatened on Instagram?
It depends
But my
on the
point,
account.
but
I'm
hold
telling
on.
you.
But my point, Breezy, was not. I know why it got down. I
Right.
just think it's insane and
Yeah.
ridiculous.
But it's an algorithm. It's not like a person,
yeah,
right? It's an
Yeah,
algorithm.
it's yeah.
They got to change that algorithm.
Somebody said beat one too many times that day.
So, I mean, imagine what
you
would
got
happen.
flagged.
They would be flagging the Shawshank prison warden all day long for the stuff he was doing to Andy Dufresne.
would've
But
got flagged.
Anyway, I'm glad we got to see this movie. We're gonna
Great
watch. We're going off the path because I was gonna go on to these AFI movies, but next week we're gonna watch Waiting to Exhale
We want Whitney to redeem herself.
and The Paperboy. We're gonna go with both of those.
I will watch both.
And since it's an Angela Bassett movie, I don't know if we can do 3, but I don't know if Connolly's seen it. But What's Love Got to Do with It is one of my favorite movies.
I know
so.
it front to back.
Ooh, I like that. So we may have to talk
I
about that
love
one
Angela
day. too.
Bassett. But yeah, The Paperboy, the Canadian film that came out in '94, not the Lee Daniels version.
Okay. And everybody, last thing before I say goodbye, be careful when you threaten me on Instagram. They'll take it down.